Hi there folks, it's John. We're out doing some sawing today. I have a red oak log which isn't perfect. It has a little bit of a crook in it, but we're going to still make some really nice boards for furniture out of it. This particular log came from a group of red oak trees. So imagine 3 red oak trees coming up, fighting for dominance, fighting for sunlight. And you might notice on the end of the log, it's a little bit misshapen. That's from part of the lean. And then we have a little bit of an S-curve in it. So obviously this side's high, that side's low, but this face and the opposite face are nice and flat. So what we're going to do here is try to massage the most lumber we can get out of this and also keep it stable and again produce nice boards for what we're doing. So looking at this, we kind of have it set up, and you'll notice I have a big gap between the log and the decking, and over on this end I actually have it hanging down below the decking. So what I want to do on this is rotate it 180 degrees and get this side down. There we go. So now as we have this turned, we do have a space here, but we've leveled out the top a little bit. So what I'm going to do, you might notice on the end here, the center of the log's down here, we have a little bit of lean to this tree. So this was the base where the root was. So down there I'm barely going to skim it, but over here we're going to take a good amount off, trying to get this balanced. So to figure out where to set my saw, what I'm going to do is actually use the head rig to tell me how high to set the blade. So down here I'm at 14 inches. Here I'm at a little more than 19 and a half. So that does mean if I set this thing down at 14, I'm going to be producing a cant or an offcut that is 0 on this end, and it'll be 5 inches thick on the other. Thinking about it, I might get a few shorts out of this. So what I think I'm going to do, knowing that I was at 19 and a half, if we're at 19 and a half, let's take 2.5 off it. Let's set it at 17 right now. And we'll take an initial cut just to remove the bark down on that end. And then we might bring it down and get a 1-inch board out of it. So let's fire this up. So now I have this end cut down, so we're almost at a balanced log here. The pith or the center of the tree is almost dead center in that board. And on that end of the tree, we're centered as well. For this particular log that we're doing, we're going to try to get as wide a board as possible. So these are going to end up, we're down to 13 5/8 right now. I'd like to end up at about 12 inches wide, and there will be a little bit of bark inclusion there, but it just gives you more options down the line once this is dry and you actually want to make something out of it. So setting the head, there are different ways to go about it, and Kevin just talked to me about one unique way that he does it is a full revolution on the head. When you raise and lower it is 1 inch, but that doesn't take into account the 1/8 inch for kerf loss. So what he does is a full revolution plus 3. We checked against a scale that Woodmiser provides, and there for a full solid inch board is a full revolution plus 5. But what I'm doing is I'm working off the scale and just going in inch and an eighth increments. So what I'm going to do is flip this 180, and again we're going to try to get as much lumber out of this. So these cuts right now are going to determine the width of the boards that we're going to get. My dogs back here are 10 inches tall, so also not going below 12 or 11 inches is going to let me leave those up. So I don't have to worry about sawing into those. A lot of times when you have a flat like this, you don't have to worry about clamping it on a heavy log. It's probably not going to move, but we'll just lock this down because. So I know I have a high spot right here, and of course I have a high spot right there. So I'm just going to try to feather those down. So I'm just going to keep dropping it an inch at a time and try to get those nice little boards. The first kind of board that we got off the thing doesn't look that great, but if you peel the bark on it and write something like faith, family, and friends on it, you can put it on a wall anywhere. So let's start this up and make some more cuts. One little thing that I do, I almost always pull the boards off the back, and you'll notice me stop the saw, not leave the blade running. So when you pull it back over your cant with it not running, first of all, it scrapes off a lot of the sawdust, but also that first little part where you're getting it up on the cant, if your blade is below the cant and it's not pulling anymore, it's a sign that your blade's starting to get dull. So it's just an easy way to go, the blade's not sawing straight anymore. Maybe we should look at changing it out, but it's cutting pretty good so far. So we have cut two sides of this, and what we've basically done is decided how wide our boards are going to be. Now I'm going to flip it up on end, just turn it 90 degrees, and we'll start actually sawing boards out of this. So we're going to saw it through and through. The nice thing about sawing through and through like this is you get sequential boards. So if you're building, well, it could be any project, but here at Wood Magazine we tend to focus a lot on furniture. So by having these sequential boards, I basically have book matches all the way through. So after all this dries, we could stack the wood back together as it came out of the tree, and then select boards for whatever project we're doing. So for instance, you can get color match, grain match, everything that has been cut off so far and is in the pile over here is going to be flat sawn basically. So it's going to have that cathedral grain. The first boards off this face and this face are going to have flat sawn surface and going to be kind of that cathedral grain, which is very common when you see anything red oak. But as we get towards the center, first we're going to get rift sawn, and then we're going to get some quarter sawn grain too. So this method doesn't give you, the same grain every single board, but it will give you sequential boards. And you get a mix, so you can select the lumber that you want out of this. Pretty good log. We got a couple of knots here. On the other side there was a bigger, looser knot, and pretty darn straight except for this little heel where the root ball was. But we'll cut that off, and I've been going pretty conservative on this. Again, I'm just dropping it 1.1 at a time. You could cut more, but we're trying to maximize our yield on this, so every little board counts. So we'll fire this up again, start sawing. You also notice when I do set this up, I'll pull the guide on the arm a little closer to the log because now we're at a fixed width. And you'll also notice when I'm starting the saw, I kind of feather it up. Some people, when they start up the saw, you'll see them just rack that engagement lever over, and it'll work, but I think it's a little harder on the saw. I have my dogs or my arms back here at full height, so if I get down to 10 inches, I have to watch out, otherwise I'm going to cut into those. And then I have to also watch out for this guy that I don't cut into that. So halfway through here, we're probably going to be due for a flip. So we have 3 boards back together that are in sequence as we cut them off the log or the cant. And you can kind of see on the end grain here, the center of the trees here, we got some cracking. So when you look at the end grain of the wood, in theory, this one should have the most quarter sawing, and then we should have some rift sawing, and then this should be more of a flat sawn face. But you do remember, we had a bit of a crooked log, so you have some different grain patterns going on within the board as you move down. As you sight down, you'll notice we have nice straight boards. That's again why I did when you open it up, you can see the curve. So I'll open this up like this. So you can kind of see how that grain S curves all the way down. But when you sight down the edge of the board, we have a nice straight, stable board. The nice thing is with furniture, for a lot of our parts, we don't need 8-foot long clear boards. We need sections of boards. So again, this was the one where if you look at the end grain, you say, well, that should be mostly cathedral grain stock. But when you look down it, we have some nice quarter sawn figures. So we have sections of quarter sawn here, and you have a nice section here. You'll notice in the center of the tree, we did have kind of a crack from when it was a juvenile. And you have some of the early knots coming off it, excuse me, but again, that can be cut away. So when I'm talking about book matching and slip matching, if I put these 3 back up, so a book match, and we'll use these 2 right here. A book match would be you take 2 boards cut sequentially and open it like a book. So the grain is going to be a mirror image of itself. So for a project, if you're using 2 boards wide, a book match is a great way to go. If you're doing a slip match, you simply slip each board right off, and the grain won't necessarily carry over. For instance, this is the outside one, so you'll see a lot more cathedral grain here, where here we have a nice, not a mirror image, but a slipped image. So if I find the next board over, I might have 3 sequential boards that look pretty nice. And that'd be good for a tabletop or even, sets of drawers, things like that. But I was surprised. Within this, we had more quarter sawn figure than I thought. Again, if I flip this guy over, sometimes it's just as simple as turning it over. One side it looks kind of plain, and the other side you have some really nice figure. So it really gives you options when you have those sequential cuts. You can play around with the grain and really get some nice looking stuff for your project. So again, I have one board here that's a little thick that I'd like to get trimmed up so it's not thicker in the pile than everything else. And we have our original boards that will probably edge. And what I like to do with those original boards, these ended up about 9 1/8, 9 1/4 wide. The original boards that I cut, I'm going to either cut narrower or a little bit wider, so they're not this same dimension, because nothing is worse than when you're trying to put the tree back together and you have the random boards on the side that you're trying to work into the stack. So yeah, got a nice red oak, and again, not the prettiest thing in the world, not the greatest log in the world, but we were able to really get some nice usable material out of it that'll make for a good project. Let's go talk about the controls on the mill. So on the head itself, we obviously have the motor. This right here turns on and off the water. So we're going to drip a little bit of water on that blade, not really to keep it cool, but to keep it lubricated so it doesn't build up, especially if you get into pitchy logs. You can, instead of water, use different additives just to keep the blade a little bit cleaner. This is your blade guide arm, so you can adjust how far or in your guide is. Obviously, if it's too far in and you have a wide log or wide board, it's going to hit, so you have to move it out. This is the lever you flip to activate your blade, so it's kind of like tripping a clutch. So once you trip it, then the motor will start spinning the blade. This, squeeze, and you move the head. You can also simply push the head, and you have even a bar here to push the head. I tend to crank and I push on the motor. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's where I naturally end up. I've never found this comfortable, so I usually just push on the motor. This adjusts your blade height. So you can see it comes with a scale already on it that goes from 0 to 35. The head will not let you go much below 1 inch. I think it'll let you go to 7/8 if you really push it, but usually it stops right at 1. This does not take into account kerf loss for the blade. So if you just go, for example, start at 10, go 10, 9, 8, you're going to end up with 7/8 inch boards. Once that dries out, you're going to end up with some pretty thin boards. And that's why we're adding 1/8 of an inch, or sometimes I even add 1/4 of an inch if I'm trying to get 7/8 rather than 3/4 inch boards. You'll notice that this part of the scale is yellow for caution. So this would be the height of your dog and then your clamp if it's flipped all the way up. So if you get down in this area, that's a reminder to look down and see if those are folded down so you don't cut into them. But everyone cuts into them, so it's just part of owning a new mill. I think the first thing you should do is just put them up, saw into them, and get it over with. Another thing that Wood-Mizer provides, at least on their mills, is a scale that takes into account kerf loss. So on this we have 4, 5, 6, and 8/4 scale stops. So this takes into account kerf loss. So for instance, if I just squared up a log and let's say I end up there, I don't even know what it's reading, something about 15 5/8, and I wanted 4/4 boards, I simply line the 4 up, and then every time I drop, if I line it onto a 4, it'll give me 1 inch boards. So it's a way not to think about it. Another way is 1 full turn equals 2 inch, 1 half turn equals 1 inch. But we've been playing around with it, and like I mentioned earlier, Kevin does a turn or a half a turn plus 3. So I've never really worked off the wheel. I've always worked off the scale, and that's probably why my explanation sounds a little bit clunky. But several different ways to set this up to do what you want to do. With the log that we cut, we're trying to maximize yield, so we're trying to get the widest, straightest boards we can, wasting the least amount of wood. Another thing you can do here is just predetermine, I want to cut 2x4s, I want to cut 2x6s, I want to cut 1x8s. And then just size the log to that, and then just start making cuts just to get used to how you think about setting it up. And you can see too in the video how nice it is to have a second person pulling boards. If you have someone pulling boards, you can really move, and it makes life a lot easier as the operator.